Hello and welcome to Skeindeer Knits. My name is Ellie and I am a Norwegian living and knitting in London. And you can find me on Instagram and all the way at Skeindeer Knits. And that's usually what I say when I start these episodes because, want to keep everyone, old and new, up to speed with who I am and what I do. I'm a knitting designer. But I'm gonna just be very upfront in this episode and say that this is probably made more with the old-timers in mind. It's not to say that you can't watch if you just stumble upon this channel, but you might be a bit confused and it might not pique your interest in the way that most of my other videos hopefully do, because I have had a very long unintended absence. I have really not recorded all year and it's October and I think I released one podcast episode just at the very beginning of January, and I had every intention of recording roughly once a month. That's sort of been the rate I've been doing it since I stopped doing it every week, and I didn't. So I am here to just kind of catch up with you guys, and there will be knitting. I mean, there will be knitting. There is 3/4 of a year's worth of knitting, which yeah, we'll get to that. But I actually just want to do what makes the most sense to me and just talk directly to you guys, which is such a bizarre way of starting this episode because I'm so out of practice and I do tend to get more into it the more I talk about whatever. We're just diving straight into it. So as I'm sure many have been wondering, why have I not been recording? What's been going on here? And there are many reasons. One reason that struck me just today when I realized that the weather is just right for recording. It's very cloudy and bright. There's nobody else at home, and for once my street is relatively quiet, and I was like, there is no excuse. I have even washed my hair. This is as good as it gets. And that's kind of often the reason why I've not had time to record. I work from home, so it shouldn't really be that hard, and if I had any scheduling abilities, it probably wouldn't be. But the thing is, the way that my room is placed, it just has the worst light conditions. So there's that. My street has changed a lot lately. I don't know why. I live in a very quiet residential area, given how central it is. But that doesn't mean that my neighbors are quiet. And I swear, everyone and their dog got a dog during lockdown and had no interest in training that dog to not bark all the time. So they've literally been barking at a schedule. So in the morning it's that Pomeranian on the corner, and then it's the bulldog and the Jack Russell downstairs, and then the people downstairs there that have the very, very loud 3-year-old twins also just got a dog, and it's just all the time. And then people also started misusing the local park as a dog park. It's just barking all the time, and it probably doesn't bother people watching this, but it does distract me, and I'm not in the headspace that I need to record. So yes, Princess on the Pea here about that kind of stuff. It's just really been hard to record here given the noise and light issues, but it's also been the fact that I've rarely been home alone lately. So I kind of had a bit of a sort of intentional break at the beginning of the year because my dear flatmate was moving out, starting her next phase in her life with her boyfriend. They bought a flat in London and a new person moved in, and she ended up being home a lot more than we signed up for, which is totally her right. I just then didn't feel like recording for that reason also. So I've just not had a lot of alone time, and there's just never been the right time. I think that's just what I could have said. It's just never been the right time. So that's the easiest thing to explain. It's just I've never sat here and be like, oh, I could just record now, until today. Today was just all the factors were in place. For some reason, they're not doing all the construction work they've been doing downstairs, the people with the rowdy dogs. And the dogs bark at the construction work, so it's just double. There's no loud bin collection, there's no bright sunlight. It's just everything worked. I was like, even just putting on makeup is not going to go to waste because I'm going to go out after this. I was like, it worked. Everything just aligned. And that's definitely made me think about, what things needs to change in my life so that I am able to record more. And there are definitely changes set in motion to achieve that. I will talk about that in a little bit, but that's not the only thing that's been going on, and I have been writing about that more on Instagram and on my newsletter. So I keep saying this, I know it probably sounds a little bit, that's just what people say online. It does help if you sign up to my newsletter and or follow me on Instagram, because I cannot always align a scheduled video with when I have an announcement, such as a new pattern, which we'll get into. And when I just have something to share. Back in the day, I usually was very good at having a video out at the same time as the Instagram post and the newsletter post and the new design, and now I'm just not able to because of the main reason. I haven't been recording or posting on Instagram or releasing a lot of designs. That's that I'm tired and stressed out, and I feel weird about coming on here and talking about how stressed out I am, because I am very much aware that most people seek out knitting podcasts because they want someone to listen to while they're winding down with their knitting. And I do not wind down. I could use some winding down. I am not here to ease other people's stress because I'm stressed. I'm stressed out all the time. I'm stressed out for things that literally only just exist in here, but also things that exist out there. We are currently going through what we call a cost of living crisis in the UK. It's also happening in Norway, so it wouldn't really have helped me to go back there either. It's expensive, everything's expensive. Rent just went up by £200, so I'm just like, I need to get out of here ASAP. And I have also a lot of mental hang-ups about being this visible on the internet, and that's probably been a dormant little internal monster that's been along for the ride ever since I started Skeindeer Knits in 2016. And I've tried to express some of what that means to me on Instagram. There's a post there, we could find it. I modeled one of my grey tank tops that I just released, if you're looking for the post. And if I'm gonna try to like describe it on here, I'm overwhelmed, and I'm overwhelmed by both the perceived and the actual expectations from other people. I don't perform well under expectations, and I feel like the longer I've been on here, the more I have set the stage for what people expect from me, and then I have to keep up with that. So when I've had a good period, that's like the standard I've got to meet now, and I'm not having a good period right now. I feel fine, but I'm having a very hard time organizing myself. I'm very good at making plans and scheduling things and all sorts of things. Great at organizing, terrible at execution, following through with it. Like, that is something that is quite difficult for me, and I'm working on that. Like, it's quite serious. Like, I'm talking to my second therapist now about this. Still kind of trying to find out, not answers, I think I have the answers, but solutions, which is different. And I know there've been so many lovely responses to this when I've talked about it on Instagram. It's clearly showing just how much of this is, you know, perceived rather than real, but a lot of it has also come about in response to how the knitting community has changed over the years, because it was in many ways a lot more, I don't know, I don't want to call it nicer or more innocent or anything like that in the beginning, because it wasn't. There was a lot of issues. Like, I felt quite pressured to perform a certain way. Like, I had to, like, you know, you can't curse, or you gotta be like super, I don't want to say like girly or feminine, but like, there was like a certain type that you had to be that I just really wasn't, but you know, tried, like, it was like that. But now there's, like, on top of that, so many other things. There's a certain segment that's just looking for people to fail and hoping for it and reeling over it, and that's just scary. And that's just the internet. It's got really nothing to do specifically with the knitting community. It's just what the internet is like. You see people on a high pedestal, you want to take them down. That's like internet 101. So it's not surprising that knitting community would have some of that too. That's just what you would expect. And I haven't mentally adjusted so well to that. But I think that's just such a minor little trigger part of it. That's not really the main issue, because the main thing is just that I have my own inner little demons that are maybe not that nice. You know, they're just not that nice. And, you know, I keep being told by people that I need to be kinder to myself, and I'm like, what do you mean? I'm plenty kind to myself. And then I realize very quickly that I am not. So, we try. I think a lot of things will probably get better. It's just a bit of a way to get there. And I thought I would talk a little bit about that too, because I've been talking for years that I want to move and have my own place. I have been flat sharing for 12 years, which is 12 years too many for someone like me who just isn't that flat sharey. I've lived in the current apartment for 7 years here in Shoreditch in London, which is a very trendy, cool place. For half of the time I've lived here, it's been a really, really good time. I moved in here with friends, and in about a year and a half they had moved out, and then it was followed by 3 years that were not fun. And then it was followed by 2.5 years that were really nice. And now I had half a year that isn't quite working for me. And that's just me being done with flat chairs. And it's not the fault of the person I'm living with or anything. It's just clearly me having just reached a point of flat sharing where I'm just like, oh, you're not hanging up the tea towel the right way, or just like things that are just like so ridiculous that I'm just like, clearly this is about me being very much ready to have my own space and being able to, you know, go to the toilet at night in my underwear and not having to be like, you know, suddenly I'm stepping out to a public space because it's still a flat share, and it's just like, you know, it's the little things in life. And I need my own place so much, and things have been set in motion to achieve that, and I am very, very excited. I definitely am not going to be sharing any specifics about that until things are set in stone. And if you know anything about property buying in the UK, you know that it is very expensive because you get so much less value for your money, but also the interest rates right now are just the worst time to buy property. But I need for my noggin to do it now, so it's just what you're going to do. But mostly having your offer accepted doesn't really bind you to anything. It doesn't bind the people who accepted the offer to anything. So you don't really know if you're gonna get it until you have transferred the money and have the keys in your hand. That's that. So until we're at that space, I'm not really gonna say anything, because this could all fall through, and then it's just no point in me having shared a whole hoo-ha about it. That wasn't gonna happen. But right now it's looking good. If we're gonna go by the normal time frame that these things happen, I might be moving right in the middle of Christmas. So I didn't think that through, but that's where I'm at currently, and I am very excited. But also I am very much in my feels, and for those of you who are getting a bit impatient, we're like 15 minutes into this episode ish. I've got a lot of knitting to talk about, don't you worry. But I am very much in my feels about this place, and you guys might be too, because I've been recording from here and photographing my knitwear from here and doing vlogmas from here since 2016, and I have lived here since 2016. Did I say that? I probably included that. So it's been 7 years here in this very lovely apartment. Sure, it would be in a better state had I owned it and would have made some changes. Believe you me, I would not have nicotine yellow wall paint or very old-fashioned blinds that you roll down. I can't stand them. Carpets definitely all have to go. Team floorboards and rugs here, don't even get me started. And they're brown. All the carpets here are all a different shade of brown. Why? My landlords have the worst interior taste in the world. It is so bad. It maybe doesn't sound like it right now, but I'm very much in my feels about this tenancy coming to an end. It is such a lovely apartment in so many other ways than the ones I listed. It is basically a penthouse, right? It's the top floor of a maisonette. We have, I'm looking at the gherkin right now. That's the gherkin right there. That's my view from my work desk, from my bedroom. That's incredible. I have been able to afford that thus far. Maybe not so much longer, but that's been a great view. It's super bright. Like, yeah, I have a ceiling light on just in case, but it's quite cloudy today. But I've got a window there, I've got 2 windows there, and most rooms in this flat are like that. There is light coming both in from the north and the south. It's really bright, and privacy, even though you have windows, there's not really a whole lot of points of being able to look into the flat. The rooms are big, so we have a big living room, we have big bedrooms, this massive patio space up on kind of roof terrace type place with all my plants. I've become a plant mom. I've got lots of plants in the living room, mostly monsteras that I keep propagating because they just keep on growing and you don't know what to do, and I'm quite overwhelmed by them, and I don't know how I'm going to fit them into the new space that I may or may not get that is half the size of this apartment and way further away from here. This neighborhood is a chapter that's closing, and I am very much in my feels about that too. If you know anything about London, you may know that Shoreditch is the cool place. And I used to live in Hoxton before here, so those are like the two side-by-side places that are for all the cool kids. It's a wonderful place. We've got all these beautiful like parks, city farms, there's the canal with all the houseboats, we got all these street markets, I love them. We've got Brick Lane, Columbia Road Flower Market, there's Broadway Market. It's such a nice area and we've got great connections. Like I don't even have to get on a train to go central, I get on a bus. And it's just, I've been in this flat for 7 years, in the whole neighbourhood for 11 years, but if we include that little short stay in Farringdon, that's actually 12 years in east central London. And it is a part of London that's definitely changed a lot. It's probably the most gentrified part of London during the time I've lived here, so there's no way I can afford continuing living here, and I always knew that. But I'm gonna miss it. I'm gonna miss it so much. Just whatever direction I go when I leave my flat is always a good direction to go. Anywhere is just gonna take me somewhere amazing. And I'm also ready to leave because it's a lot living here. Even compared to other comparable parts of London, this is definitely one with a much higher population density, so I'm feeling that the sidewalk space is not a lot, let's just say that. But I've rambled on about what is going on here. I thought I'd just give a little bit of a catch up with you guys when I was actually like not just like jumping into the knitting stuff, and actually a little bit of a heart to heart thingy thing. I don't necessarily feel like I managed to explain the sort of emotional component to why I haven't been around for that long, and I'm not making any promises that this is some kind of comeback. I'm obviously still around for my knitting patterns, my designs. There are so many of them are lined up and I'm very excited to have them out there, and I will always be announcing them on my newsletter and on Instagram. I can definitely recommend, especially those of you who follow me mostly for these videos, to sign up for the newsletter, because it is such a great way for me to reach you guys when YouTube likes to hide the videos of people who haven't uploaded in a long time. It does help to subscribe and then check the subscription page rather than waiting for me to show up on your homepage. The homepage just feeds you whatever you've been watching lately, and if I haven't uploaded lately, I'm not going to appear there. So that is definitely a way to make sure you get the videos. But if you want to just kind of know what's up, newsletter is a good idea. I don't send them out too frequently or anything. I try to think about my newsletter recipients as myself and just someone who doesn't want to get that many. So that's that. I will link to all of that below. And I think finally we can talk about knitting, and we're better because as I was starting to record, I realized all my batteries were completely out of charge, which is why we're dealing with slightly subpar audio today. You probably can't notice, but my add-in microphone has a AA battery that was totally empty, and there's apparently no AA batteries in this whole flat. I don't know where they're all gone, but they're not here. And I had to charge the camera batteries, and yeah, we only have so much time to cover so much knitting. Before I get into my personal knitting, I will talk about my designs, because I have released some this year, not as many as I would have liked, and it's not a great idea if you're trying to impress mortgage lenders. So the kind of panic I have about not getting stuff done, and then I don't do things because of the panic, it actually is having repercussions for the things that I need to do to be able to get into the mindset of getting stuff done. It is a very vicious cycle that, again, she's going to therapy, she's working on it. If there was an older design of mine that you always wanted to get your mitts on and start knitting on, that this would definitely be a very nice time for that, until I get my act together and publish all these lined up designs that I've got. Anyway, I released a design in February that I still haven't announced here because I haven't been on here since, and that is the Sarbu coat. That is true. I am venturing into Sarbu garments now. I have been thinking about it and talking about it for a very long time. There's definitely a number of them down the pipeline because I'm really enjoying these Sarbu pattern repeats in an all over garment, and that is what the Sarbu coat is. I refuse to like kind of Englishify the pronunciation of Sarbu. We say Sarbu if you're from the region, so if you don't know, Sarbu is a village very close to where I'm from. I got heritage from there and stuff and things. I've been there more times than I can count, and yeah, Sarbu. So this is the Sarbu coat. Yes, it's got this pattern all over. It's so much fun. I'm gonna put it on. I have a way of getting very worked up when I record, in a good way, and it tends to increase my temperature, and so I can't wear knitwear when I record. So this is probably not going to stay on. So there, Sarbu coat at your service. This is just a big cozy like I lost count of the number of people who have worn this cardigan now, because I tend to bring this one with me when I go to yarn shows, because it is very, like, you know, big and impressive, but it's also really lightweight, and so it's very easy to bring up with me to yarn shows and just, yeah, not have that much to carry. And it's, you know, even if it's hanging over my arm, people can see it and they try it on and they're just like, oh my god, I want to keep it. Which doesn't get much better than that, does it? So this is made in DK weight, quite light DK weight even, Sword Lamb's Wool by Hillesvåg, my favourite mill in the whole world. But it has worked at a kind of worsted weight gauge, because this kind of woolly non-superwash yarn is just filling up the gaps, so you can kind of knit thinner yarns with a looser gauge and still get really nice fabric. And I wanted to make something this big and oversized. I think about what the total grams are going to be for that, and I just try to kind of balance it out, if you will. So why do I talk like this now? But there was a funny story with this cardigan. Let me tell you this story. It is I'm just gonna get up first so you can see. It's not very long, but it's definitely longer than my usual cardigans. But it is worked up down, so you can just stop or continue whenever you see fit. That is not an issue at all. So there's that. Got a little bit of a V shaping here, so a little bit of increasing in colour work, but I did include a chart for that because I'm nice sometimes. So the tale of woe with this cardigan is that I knitted it. I started it in the summer of lockdown, the first summer in 2020, and was it 1 year after, 2 years after, I finished it, and I thought, I want to really see this one fluff up, so I'm going to put it in the wash. And I am very confident at machine washing, non-superwash. You can absolutely do that. You're just going to put on the right program, which I didn't. I thought I did. My eyes saw something and my brain interpreted it completely differently. And I think that, you know, I get a lot of like imposter syndrome over the struggles that I'm having, and I sometimes wonder if I made it up, and like, what do you mean you can't do things? You can do things, just do them. What are you talking about? And then I'm like, this like Smeagol Gollum kind of discussion with myself, and I'm just like, okay, maybe I can, maybe I'm just making it up. Of course I could just get started doing things, why not? And then I put this in the washing machine, and I think I put it on the delicate cycle, which is made for like silks and cashmere and stuff, or the wool program if you have that. Sometimes they're made for superwash, be careful about that. And it made sure the temperature is down to 30 degrees and no spinning, and then max the spinning once it's done, so you get the water out. That's what I thought I'd done, but clearly I'd done whatever the opposite of that is, because the program that was on was stain remover. Yeah, stain remover. Oh god. As horrible as it was also like a very nice kind of like objective evidence that I'm like not making this stuff up, that I'm like, oh yeah, I do have a hard time with my brain getting stuff done and like being like fully present in those decisions, and like, I don't know, what do we call it, like brain fog? It's like a lot of things going on, and like the stress levels of like the number of times I just like forget where I put things. It's like I've always been like that runs in the family, but it's like a whole nother level now, and I'm just like, the reasoning is completely off. And yeah, it came out completely stiff and tiny, and I was just like, I don't know what to do. There's no way I'm making this again. I just like, I didn't feel anything. What do, you know? It's a very quick knit actually, so I wasn't like that upset. Like, it had taken me a while because I procrastinate so much and I have too many projects going, but I knew that if I started again I would have been able to finish it very quickly. All the decisions for the designs have been made, so I would just have to knit through it, no problem. But I really wanted to have it out soon. Like, I really wanted to. So I instructed a friend of mine who's been absolutely lovely at helping me with test knits and smaller sample knits before. What she knitted me and sent me, and I paid her obviously, is identical to what I had knitted. It's identical. It's completely indistinguishable from my original. I forget that I didn't knit this one because I remember knitting it and it looks the same. But yeah, this is the sample too, so that I can forget that this ever happened. Top down, got a simple steek for the front and one each for the armholes, so you can pick up around the armhole later and knit the sleeves. It is such a simple construction, honestly. So yeah, it is lightweight. You can see that. You kind of get a sense of the weight. It's just not very heavy at all, being this big colour work beastie that it is. So that's definitely a route I am prepared to go down more, if we can say that much. I'm looking at a design right in front of me right now that's like definitely in this sort of realm. And I've got lots of yarns that are definitely suitable for it. Stay tuned is all I'm gonna say to that. But thank you so much for the lovely reception of this back when I did publish it in February. For those of you who missed it, obviously it's still available on Ravelry. That's, you know, it's not an expiration date on that, but if you do want to know about these things when they actually happen, there's definitely the newsletter. That's the best way. If you don't like Instagram, I completely understand you. Trust me, I do. Ooh, that would definitely be the option I would choose. If you don't like Instagram, but you don't mind catching up now and then, you can literally type in instagram.com/Skeindeer in your browser and just read it that way. You don't need the app. Most people should probably not have the app. It's a terrible app now. I need to be stopped. And then I had a bit of a, oh my god, I can't release my patterns, I'm in a brain funk, thing throughout the summer, which was ridiculous because, again, I'm not being very kind to myself for working on this. But it was ridiculous because it was ready at the beginning of the summer and didn't release until the end of summer. Why? I don't know. I took the photos in June when I was home in Norway, which was so lovely, and just didn't get around to releasing them until mid-August, I think it was. Yeah. And I'm really proud of the collection, and it's also kind of fine that it came out when it did, because at least in the UK and a lot of parts of Norway, and I think also actually US, had a very extended summer. That wasn't that hot in the middle of summer, but it was like August, September, and even so far in October it's been quite warm. So it's been fine. And obviously the other hemisphere is going into summer now, so lucky you guys. But I think, you know, winter is a great time to knit summer knits and summer is a great time to knit winter knits. Maybe that's just me. It's clearly just me going by people's habits. But yeah, I made 2 tops. There's one tank top that is here somewhere. Haha, got it. It's been a bit folded, so now it looks a bit funky, but I am so pleased with this. You may think it reminds you a little bit about Ysolda because it is a top-down tank top in grey, which is like the closest thing I can find in my colour range for summer yarns, because they tend to be all pastels, and I cannot stand pastels. Oh my god, don't get me started about pastels. So yeah, it's great. But apart from that, it doesn't really have a whole lot in common. I think this construction is substantially easier because of just how I laid out the instructions, and front and back are exactly the same, which is pretty neat. And it's actually a thicker yarn. This is Sandnes Laine, which is technically a worsted weight yarn, but it is very, very, very light. So absolutely perfect for summer knits. It's a cotton linen viscose blend, I believe. And it has a twisted stitch pattern on the body, which I may have to get a bit closer so you can actually see. There we go. That is more like it. It's such a nice pattern. I love twisted stitch patterns so much. And I also got this like thing that's called a lateral braid. So it's not a Latvian braid. This is like it's almost like knitting 2 together and then passing on knitting 2 together all the way around. A bit more involved than that, but like it's a really nice way to just create a ridge before you transition into the twisted stitch pattern. And I finish off with it as well before you do some garter. So it hangs very loosely. There's nothing like hugs onto you. So when you feel like, you know, it's summer, you don't want to have anything too clingy. This is definitely what I had in mind for this one, because I really struggle with the heat. And this kind of top, you know, means that I can still be me and wear my knitwear even though it's very balmy. So that was the thinking behind that. Other things in the collection is this shawl. There are 2 other designs as well. One I've showed you before, the Arctic Summer Eve tee. I'm very, very proud of that. And also the Buttercup socks. I'm just gonna have to show you photos of those because I don't have them here right now. But this shawl, I call it the old shawl. I can't pronounce things, I'm sorry. But that is actually the name of the chart that I use. Some people call it Feather and Fan, but I think Feather and Fan is slightly different. It's an old Shetland lace motif. You've probably seen it lots and lots of places. It's been used mostly on shawls, but obviously also on garments. I think one of the first garments I ever made myself had this like kind of across here as a Heidi Kiermaier pattern. There's a lot of people who have put this on a lot of things, especially shawls. Yet I had never seen anyone put it on a fairies shaped shawl before. And I love me a fairies shaped shawl because it has this like kind of wing shape to it. Like it looks like two angel wings in a way. Whereas most shawls are like, okay, this is a triangle, this is a circle, this is a asymmetrical, like they have very specific geometrical shapes, whereas this shape really doesn't. You can see what I mean? Because it is in a way worked as a triangle, it will increase every other row along here and down here, and do the same thing for the other wing. But it's got this center spine that increases a lot more gradually till I have like about 2 repeats of the pattern here, and also increases made in the body of the garter when it's just one color up here. So it's like it's combining a triangle shawl with a kind of circle shawl in a way, and it just creates the best shape. There's not like a specific mathematical formula to this the way there is with the other geometrical shapes. You kind of have to just like, if you're designing it, no, if you're knitting it obviously, this is all made out for you, but if you're designing it, you really have to like sit and finagle all the numbers until it sort of makes sense. And the first version of that I'd done, I had to frog because I had put the shaping in so extreme that so that each of the wings, they started to overlap. So I don't know how to explain that, but like these wings that come out here, they're obviously supposed to go up quite high like this, but these went up so high that they were like starting to cross like this. It was like so funny. So I had to frog and start over again, and now I have achieved the perfect shape for my wearing pleasure. It's quite big, it's a lot bigger than say loosening for instance, which is also this shape. So yeah, it's bigger. If you want it smaller, you could probably just knit it with a smaller needle. This is quite a loose gauge for the yarn that I used. I used Gullane New Zealand lamb's wool, which is, I would argue, a light fingering weight, non-superwash wool. It is one of my favorites. It is so nice. And yeah, just want to thank them so much for giving me this yarn to design with, because these colors are perfection. So it was a bit of an accident that I ended up with these, because I definitely did request this beautiful dark blue to make the shawl with, but then I happened to have these smaller skeins from a completely different context. I think they were donating for a giveaway and they gave me one set just to work with, and I was like, I can use that now. I will use it with this, and I combined that with these, so it worked out really well. So it made me look a bit overwhelming if you're like, I don't know if I want to use those colors, if I have that yarn or whatever. I made it incredibly simple for you to substitute. Basically it's 3 shades of blue and 3 shades of green, and that's what the colors in the pattern are called. So green 1, 2, 3, blue 1, 2, 3, and it is the darkest shade of blue. That's the main body. Doesn't have to be, but that's just how that worked out here. It's been on my to-do list for a very long time, this, to do the Faroese version of the seafoam, not quite feather fan shawl shape. And yeah, just give you a little close-up as well, of course. There we go, just how that looks close up. A fun little knit. It was very quick for me to do. I don't know, I like doing these knits that like, they don't look like they're quick knits, but they definitely just kind of keep me going. And I don't know what it is about me. I think a lot of people probably can relate to this, is that the more advanced I guess I become as a knitter, the more I actually seek out simpler knits. It's kind of weird. I love being challenged. I love getting to explore new methods and shapes and stuff like that, but my goodness, do I just want to knit garter sometimes, you know, or stockinette. So that's kind of shining through in a lot of my designs lately. Like I want them to be like clever and have good fit, but smooth sailing. So I haven't released anything more than that at the time of recording, but I know that I am very close to releasing the onesie that I designed and knit for my nephew over a year ago. So 2 years ago? It was a while ago. We photographed it spring last year, and I think it's a great pattern to release in the autumn, so I plan on releasing that anytime soon. And if you do want to hear about when that happens again, I don't like repeating myself as a newsletter. It would be a very nice way to find out when that is being released. But yeah, I have also got a matching pullover for that one, and I would imagine I'll probably launch them at the same time and maybe come up with some kind of like bundle for that, something. Yeah, so that's happening there. But that is basically made in kind of sort of worsted weight yarn. You can use a thick DK or a Aran weight probably as well. I held fenule together for the onesie, and that worked out so lovely. I might do that more because that's a really nice yarn, just double strand fenule. So that's coming down the pipeline. I also have a vest coming. People really love vests, and I'm just like, yeah, it's a garment without sleeves. I love it. A layering piece, I'm all for it. And I also got a very like nice kind of blousey type jumper, so just stay tuned for that. And I got some stockings, and there's all good things. Good things. So I bet you're curious, what have I been knitting on this whole time? I mean, it's been 3/4 of a year, but Ellie's been knitting lots of things. Surely. I've been knitting a lot of socks. I've never been much of a sock knitter, and I don't plan on becoming one, but yet here we are. Stockinette socks, 64 stitches, just maybe varying the heels and cuffs sometimes, but generally the same stockinette socks over and over and over again. I've got through so many of my self-striping sock yarns, I've actually had to buy new ones, which we'll get to in a bit. Yeah. I don't know where. I think I'm just, again, gravitating towards keeping things very simple, just having something to do with my hand and maybe not my brain, because we're trying to go easy on this poor little noggin here. Work in progress there. But yeah, so I've got through a lot of my self-striping sock yarn stash, and I don't even have all the socks that I made here with me, but I certainly have some of them. More recently, I finished these socks in Regia yarn that I've had in my stash forever. I didn't even know this was like a striping yarn. So yeah, it's clearly got an obvious stripe pattern now that I'm looking at it like this, and I definitely saw that after making the first socks. I tried to like match them up as closely as I could, so I had to like wind up a little bit of yarn between the toe of one to the cuff to the other, but I think I succeeded. I think that's going pretty well. And yeah, I think I've achieved a pretty good fit after a while as well with these, because in some of the first socks that I did some rather small heels. They're very small, because I forgot that when I do these short row heels, I tend to do them on my colorwork socks because it doesn't interrupt in the colorwork in any way, and that is my 72 stitch count. But in my stockinette socks, because they don't need to have, you know, with floats and things and stuff like that, they have only 64 stitches, and so that heel becomes a lot smaller, and I forgot to increase before the heel and decrease after, which I've done for all these other socks, so they still fit, but that was not ideal. So this is West Yorkshire Spinner Christmas sock yarn. They come up with at least one new Christmas colorway every year. I don't know what they're called, I don't remember that, but I finally knitted up this. I've done 2 pairs of socks in this yarn, but I have given away the other pair, and I've contrasted things with other West Yorkshire sock yarn that I have in a solid colour. This is another West Yorkshire Spinner sock yarn, and here I believe I remember to increase, and what I did here is actually I will just do a lot of increases just before it on the heel side. So I think I add about 4 or 6, I don't know, I think 6, and then I will decrease them again once I finish the heel, increasing here, decreasing back down here. That's one way of doing it, and I've done that for these, and that works out just fine. I don't think you can tell. And I think I've done that here as well. This is another West Yorkshire Spinner Christmas colourway. I haven't even woven in the ends here. My goodness, how shameful. I would never. I've been very good at weaving ends with all these socks, though. This is the only exception. So here I've actually contrasted with some Regia yarn that I happen to have. So it's a little bit thicker, I can feel, feels a bit coarser as well, which is probably a good thing. So yeah, my West Yorkshire Spinner socks. Ta-da! I don't remember which of these that I knitted 2 pairs of that I've given away. I'm very confused of what I've done, but I know there's another 2 pairs in addition to these 3 that I have given away. That's why they're not here anymore. If there were any others, I wouldn't know it. But I've also done these in Knitting Goddess yarn, which sadly doesn't dye anymore, and I just discovered that when I went to Yarndale. So this was very nice to knit up. It's just like a very, very heavily variegated hand-dyed yarn, and it was just really fun to knit, just very rewarding. And I did a heel flap and gusset, the ones that you will normally find in my patterns, that has like quite a round heel. It's like a combination of a heel flap and a half shorter heel, if you will, and then I just do the gusset. I like it. It fits my heel so well. So yeah. And I think I invented it a bit by accident, because I just kind of tried to use short rows for the heel turn, and then I did them a little bit too much, and then I was like, that looks weird, but when you put them on, perfect curve, perfect. So hand-dyed West Yorkshire Spinners Regia. So that's what, 5 pairs? 5 pairs plus 2 that I give. That's 7 pairs. I am not a sock knitter. I could have done the box of socks challenge from way back when now. Would I only need another 3 pairs. It's not a Cal anymore, but like, I don't know who this sudden stockinette sock knitter is, and self-striping yarn as well, which never really was my thing. I remember when I started this podcast and I was like, I don't get this whole self-striping yarn, like why don't you just stripe it yourself? And yeah, I've definitely had to like take that back several times because it's so fun. The yarn is striping itself, it's such a reward every time you get to a new stripe. It's just like, oh, it just, I don't know what it is. If you're coming to this podcast and you have that mindset that I had in the beginning, it was like, why would you not just stripe yourself and pick your own colours? And I know what you mean, but now that I've done it, it is so rewarding and fun and just simple. And when I want my simple knits, this is just, oh, it's good. That's not saying that I don't want to go back to like, you know, patterned socks and colour work and lace and texture and cables and even striping them myself with leftovers. All of that, but this is a lot of fun. But I have not just been knitting on socks. I have made a lot of my own designs, obviously. You'll see them when they come out, basically. But I have also been working on some other people's designs because that just gives me life. I love knitting other people's designs. I never want to make knitting just my job. Like, I still want to just sit there and be like any other knitter, just knitting other people's designs. And so I finally cast on the Niitty cardigan by Jenny Ansah. Maybe didn't pronounce that right, but yeah, this was published in Laine magazine I think last year, and I talked about it a little bit on here, and I was like, I want to knit it but I probably never will because I guess I thought it was going to be too time consuming, too much of whatever. It's worked flat and I don't see myself sticking this one. It was so quick to knit, I don't know what to tell you. It was this all complicated like flower pattern along the hem and the sleeves, and there's very big sleeves too. I don't know what struck me, but I just zoomed through it. On one hand, I was very motivated to get through the twisted rib for the body and the sleeves, which yes, twisted knits and purls flat. Not my favorite, but because it's not my favorite, I did it quickly. I just wanted to get over with. And then we came to the like meadow pattern, the flowery texture pattern, which was fun to do. But again, I just wanted to get to the stockinette, so I just kept knitting it and I was done with it fairly quickly. And then I went to the stockinette, and because I don't like purling, I try to get that over with. And when I get to the knitting, I like knitting, so then I just knit that row, and I just kept doing that. And I made the whole cardigan flat, fairly in one monogamous knit. I don't even recognize myself. First stockinette socks and now this. For those who don't know, I tend to always find a way to put a steek in and try to work things around and adapt the process to my weird preferences, but for some reason here I changed nothing. And here is the cardigan. Now it is actually not quite done because I have not done the bottom band because I don't want to, because I will though, I will. But here's the whole beastie. And I want to talk a little bit about the yarn. I'm going to get to that in acquisition, so I'm trying to do things in order. But I ended up with a obscene amount of yarn after going to Norway, which I know, what else is new? That's what I always do. But no, you're not listening. When I normally go to Norway, I hoard yarn. I will buy yarn everywhere and just think it's like the last chance I'll ever get to buy yarn here, even though I go to Norway fairly often, seeing as I'm from there. But this time I had yarn thrown after me left, right and centre, because I went to this event and there was yarn that we got to pick from to try out for our designs, and then there was a lot of yarn left for that, and well, they were kind of desperate to get rid of it, and suddenly I find myself having 2 sweater quantities of a alpaca wool blend by Rauma. So this is their, I think this is Me Too or To Me. So Me Too and To Me are their 2 wool and alpaca blends. One is thinner than the other. I used a thicker one, whichever one is like the DK worsted one, that was the one I used. And so yeah, this is quite heavy. It's quite a heavy, big cardigan, but I don't mind. I wanted it to be big. I wanted it to just, I finally had a lot of yarn because this wasn't just a sweater quantity, it was a big sweater quantity. Like I normally think of a sweater quantity for me is about half a kilo, maybe even 400 grams, depending what I'm gonna do. This was closer to maybe 800 grams, 700 grams, something like that. Like I had a lot of yarn, so I had a lot of yarn left over. Hopefully I'll use that up for the bottom band. But it was a lot, and yeah, I did end up with 2 sweater quantities. Other one, I have knit into the design, and I'm just gonna hint that right now, but that's all you will know. It's a bright blue, and I'll hopefully have that out this autumn as well, because I'm very excited about this one. Okay, and it was also one of those things that was such a quick knit, even though it is a lot of yarn in there. And it's good because you can just use any commercial yarn that you like. It doesn't have to be this yarn, doesn't have to be a wool alpaca blend. And let's talk about that for a bit, because I tend not to like alpaca. I'm famous for not liking alpaca. I love knitting with it, don't love wearing it. But so far, because this is a wool alpaca blend, it doesn't seem to have a lot of the negative attributes of alpaca that I try to steer away from. The sagginess, the lack of shape and memory and structure, all that stuff. This doesn't seem to have that problem. I think Irma did really well with this blend, because it's, look at how these pop. Look at how the meadow sleeves pop. It's not blocked or anything. It's still popping. I will say I have my bubble method that I will use in every bubble. So I will follow the bubble methods given in a pattern. But no matter what method I use, I find that there is a stitch right next to it that usually ends up being a lot looser, especially if you're working around, but also kind of when you work flat. So what I do is I deliberately pull that stitch so it becomes even looser, and then I hoop it around the bubble once or twice, and the bubble pops, the gap disappears. Look at that. It is so effective. I first learned this when I did the Magnolia cardigan, which also has like bubbles sort of around the hem, and I think maybe also the sleeve, though I didn't do that. And yeah, I can highly recommend doing that. Doesn't matter what bubble technique they're recommending in the pattern, as far as I know, this seems to work for any method, because I think any method has a risk of getting that gap, and that's just because if you're a knitter like me who tends to carry over a lot of the yarn from the previous stitch to the next stitch, not to the next stitch, there will just be a gap before that bubble, because you can't keep carrying that yarn over across that bubble you just made on the previous row. Can't really help it, but here's a way you can just use it to your advantage, so that's good times. But yeah, I'm gonna try it on for you guys. The alpaca blends are notoriously hot, so don't expect this to stay on for too long. But let's just talk about the color choice as well, because this is terracotta, which is, you know, now in orange territory, and that is not what I do. I don't do orange. I tend not to really do a lot of browns, and yet I think I need to rotate this sleeve. I don't know how I put this on. And yet, you know, I think this is really nice, and it's so autumnal, and it's just the right mood that I want to get in now because it's October. That's that little pirouette for you guys. It has a very kind of like not me shape, like it's sort of snug around the waist and then gets kind of like looser up here, and I'm just interested in trying new things, so I'm not gonna, you know, say no to that. I'm trying it on. I'm just, yeah, it sits differently than what I'm used to. I think also this will come together a lot when I put on the button band. You can sort of distinguish a bit more what's like the neckline opening and what's like the V shape and the cardigan opening, because right now it's just kind of folding over and a bit unstable, but that will happen when I put on the bands. So yeah, look at those big sleeves, they're so big. And I imagine this will probably grow a little bit more with blocking as well, because alpaca does grow. I think even if it's a wool blend, it will grow a bit, and I'm not mad about that. I'm just very excited about all these oversized knits. And yeah, as you can see, it's got like part of the pattern is actually in the raglan increases themselves. The focus is struggling, but that's kind of the best I can do. So that's being repeated here from here. How neat is that? So yeah, this is a very enjoyable knit. It's a gorgeous design. I think if I was going to modify anything, I don't quite understand why there's short row shaping at the bottom of the yoke. I don't see what it does. Like sometimes I totally understand why it will raise the back, you get a better neckline, etc, etc, but like I don't think that's necessary because of the neckline shaping that it has. And it's quite short anyway, so I don't know if I needed to do that, but I did do it. I did listen to the pattern. But yes, my modifications of the cardigan I didn't change anything about. That's a bit of an oxymoron. I had to adapt the sleeves because my row gauge was so far off. I think it's because the recommended yarn is a silk blend, and that's probably going to drape a lot more. So I had to figure out how much shorter is this section going to be, so that how much length do I need to knit here, and the pattern assumes I need to just knit this much more, I need to knit this much more, and all of that mathing I had to figure out a new increase rate for the sleeve. And it was actually, I think going from every 3rd round to every 7th, or from every 4th to every 7th, something like that. Would nearly double the distance between every increase. So I'm very, very glad I did that math, because as I started to shape in the beginning, I was like, this is not right. I'm not having the right row gauge to be doing that. I need to adapt to suit my row gauge. Most important thing in knitting is that you get stitch gauge, because there's a lot of things that's not going to work out if you don't, which you can modify for as well, of course. But I'd rather get stitch gauge and then modify for a row gauge that isn't the same as the pattern. And after doing that math and finding my new increase rate, the sleeve looks kind of like it's supposed to be. But yeah, this section is shorter than it should supposed to be in the pattern. You can see that from the photos as well. Probably goes up to here, and it's, you know, a much bigger portion of the body as well is this meadow pattern, as opposed to with mine is sort of more at the lower edge rather than the whole body. I don't know, my row gauge has a way of being shorter. It's just kind of always been, because just my stitches are shorter. I don't know why. Maybe it's the yarn choices that I tend to make, although this is an alpaca blend, so I was kind of hoping it would behave a bit like a silk blend. I don't know why I expected that, but you know, it's fine. Everything worked out. Happy times. So yeah, the Niitty cardigan from Laine magazine by Jenny Ansah. Done, done, done. This was a very nice issue from Laine. I don't remember the number now, I'm sure you can find out. It was just really good. Some like, I get all their issues, but like there's some issues that I'm just like, oh yeah, this one, I want everything. And one thing that's really fun is that as soon as I'd finally knitted up my grey linen yarn, Laine yarn by Sunless, Ysolda comes out with a pattern that uses that very yarn, and I really wanted to try it because the way that she was talking about it, she has a YouTube channel now, it's really great, just intrigued me. I want to try it. It's got this like English tailoring method, and I've never really tried that. A lot of people have. Like, I am a bit behind, okay, and it's a tank top kind of vest, arguably, top down, and I just stuck in it. I just kind of wanted to have something to knit on, and it was also released sort of at the end of summer. It made me feel a bit less alone in the procrasti releases. Maybe that was the case with her as well, I don't know. So yeah, I went down to Brighton and bought some of their Sunless Laine. They have Sunless yarn. I don't know if you guys knew. Brighton in the UK has Sunless yarn. Not all of it, but a lot of it. Also, Knit in Teddington has that. This is the top from back. It's so cool. Like, this is one of those things I'm like, wow, whoa. So, very fascinated by it. I've already done the V-shaped neckline, got the armholes done. Like, it's just really, really neat and oversized. And it even has this like bust shaping. She talked a lot about that in her video, but it's basically like a lot of thought around what kind of bust shaping you need to do for an oversized fit. Because if you have a fitted garment, well, you could just put in bust darts, end off, it's just going to pull all and sit in the right places. But if it's oversized, it's not going to be pulling to the right way, it's going to just be hanging, and so you need to make sure it's hanging the right way. And so she put in a lot of thought into that, and I just went and disregarded all. No, I didn't, but it has really, really clear instructions of like how to choose a size based on your measurements, and just kind of hands you the size instead of you picking how much ease to add. And I figured out pretty quickly that I would probably want more ease, because my bust and torso measurements are kind of the same. Like, there's not a big difference between my upper bust and my full bust and anything below that. So I'm just kind of like, I think I want it more A-lined. I think about me in the summer. I don't want things to be clingy. I want it to sit looser below my bust. And the very clever thing that Ysolda's put in is that there are increases before the bust start that you decrease after, so that it sits the right way. I didn't decrease after, I just kept increasing because I wanted that A-line. So I'm probably kind of ruining the very clever part of this design, but at least I have, you know, I have no excuses. I just wanted an A-line. I did an A-line for my Arctic Summer Eve tee, the one in the summer collection, and I've just enjoyed it because it's such a subtle A-line. You don't really see it. It doesn't look like, you know, and I just enjoy wearing it so much that I was just like, I'm gonna do that here too. I'm gonna do it in everything. Don't worry, I'm not, but that was the only modification that I did here. So it's going to be a bit wider the longer it gets, and I'm very close to just doing the final ribbon, that be that. But then I procrastinated and knitted something else instead. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend the pattern. Ysolda's pattern's always like super great and thinks about everything, and that is the kind of thing that just just speaks to me. But also this one had a low stockinette, and so even better, honestly. So yeah, having a lot of fun with this knit, and that's kind of all the knitting in progress I have to show for right now that isn't designs. Kind of got to keep those a bit under wraps because sometimes they come out as soon as I cast them on, and other times it takes a long time. But I have been crocheting. I don't know if you guys remember the crochet blanket that I got super into over Christmas. I didn't even know like crochet was like making a comeback and like is really popular right now, and you see all this like fake crochet garments being sold in the markets down the road here now, because you can't actually machine crochet, so they have to be fake. Yeah, no, I just finally found a granny square blanket that I actually liked, which normally I don't, but this one I was like, yeah, I want to make this one. And what I have done since last time is double the size. So I spent a long time making this little blanket, and little really is the key word here because it's small, and yeah, very small. And I thought, let's double the size, this is ridiculous. And now it is twice as big, but I made the second half a little bit tighter, so it's got a bit of a trapeze shape to it. Hopefully you can't tell. I can't even tell from here actually. I think this is the old part that's like looser, and the new part is just a little bit more tighter, because I had some issues with my crochet hooks. The ergonomic hooks from Prim, the smaller sizes, they just break on me. They just snap right off. And I eventually had to go back to my trusty old, I think, Clover. These are very comfortable as well. And I tend to crochet a little bit tighter on these, I think. So that's kind of what we got now. Just flipped it over in case that looks different. Probably doesn't. All the ends are woven in. I know, I did that. I finally did. They were not woven in, I think, last time we spoke, so that was a job. But now I'm weaving in each square as I go. I have got, how can I show you this? So I'm making all the middles first, and then I try to make this middles. I kind of stack them on these pencils, and then I make the surround. And then I sort these out again into all those that need to be done in the same color, and just kind of stack them up like that. I've got 2 colors left to do, kind of working on turquoise right now, hence that's kind of my method. So I'm basically making another third. So this blanket will be even bigger, because right now it's not that big. Like, I don't know, a little bit. But if I make another third, it's like actually going to cover a whole body. But I'm actually going to make another, after I made that third, I'm going to double it. Yeah. So I'm actually, if you can say that the first was 1/6 of the total size, there will be 6 times as much as, oh god, I'm not explaining this well. I made one part during Christmas. I made another part later. This is 2 parts. I'm making the third part. I'm gonna make another 3 parts after that because I bought more yarn. Okay, it's the same yarn, Filcolana Saga, very thin yarn. It's arguably lace weight, but I think they call it light fingering, but this is really lace territory. And so it's the slowest crochet blanket anyone could have ever made. So of course that is my debut crochet blanket. It's just one that takes forever. Makes total sense. And it really does take forever. I think I spend, if I do nothing else, 1 week making all the middles for one part. That's 20 middles for each color, 6 colors. And then I spend another week doing this round, another week for the around that, and then another week doing the black to tie all that together. So I'm reckoning I spent basically 4 weeks for each of these parts, and there's going to be 6 parts. That's 4 times 6, 12, 24 weeks. It takes 24 weeks to do the whole thing. Wow. If I don't do anything else, which I have a lot of other things to do. So it's going to take a while, but I reckon it's just going to be one of those things I'll just travel with and have in my pocket. Just do a couple of things here and there. Stack them on a pencil, off you go. So that's where I'm at. Maybe that's too optimistic. And I also mistakenly didn't order enough of the black yarns. I probably need to come back for that. But that is also available in the yarn shop in Teddington. I'm really happy to have found that shop. Is it kind of technically outside of London? But yeah, I really like it. It really feels like going into a Scandinavian yarn shop. Like it doesn't have all the brands I would expect to find in a Norwegian shop or anything, but it's a lot of the brands that are there I would expect to find there, if that makes sense. So yeah, what I basically did is I've doubled the yarn amount that I initially bought for this blanket. I figured the yarn amount I have left is just the right amount to make another third, so another part if you will, but not the orange. I did not have as much orange because that's actually a different yarn that is Peer Gynt, Tin Peer Gynt by Sandnes, and that has got shorter meters, so I need to get another skein. And if I was gonna get another skein, I was like, might as well get all the yarn for making the blanket twice as big as it will be once I add the part that I'm making now. And so that's what I have committed to in the long run, in like the long game, way ahead, not anytime soon. Because I just love this as like a heirloom piece I'm gonna have in my new beautiful home that I'm gonna need to start Pinterest for that. If you know, I don't wanna get too excited too soon, but that's hopefully gonna, I don't know, it's just gonna be a bunch of stuff I can't afford. So, but that's that, my crochet blanket. If anyone's wondering about the pattern or anything like that, I am not using one, but I found a lot of good help from Hooked by Robin on YouTube, so I can definitely recommend that. And that neatly leads us into acquisitions. And I've obviously talked about the, like I said, obscene amount of this alpaca blend yarn from Roma that I had. That was just like this massive bag that I was like, you know, imagining I was going to show you guys in the podcast, but I actually knitted it up before I could even do that, so wow, okay. And that wasn't all of it. Obviously there is the yarn for the blanket, but I also ended up with a lot of yarn from Hillesbø because yes, I have been to the mill again, my favorite mill. I am part of a really cool book project that is hopefully going to come out next year, if not the year after. That is a lot of designers coming together for a book inspired by designs from a Norwegian knitting factory. And it's so cool. There's lots of designers that you've probably heard of, and there was even like an event for that in June that I did not know what to expect. I just traveled there because it was part of the project. All the designers were going to come together and go to this factory together. That's all I knew. I was like, couldn't this be an email? But sure, I guess it would be nice, whatever. It's a work trip. It was not a work trip, it was a work trip. We said that every time we, you know, bought too much wine or whatever, but like it was really, really fun. It was like a knitting retreat for this group of designers, and also for the general knitting public, because in the weekend it was basically a knitting market that was low-key like a yarn festival at this little tiny little place, this village in this beautiful island outside of Bergen in Norway. It was so nice. I even also had the pleasure of meeting friends that I haven't seen since, you know, before the Great Plague. So it was just so lovely. But not only that, they took us all on a trip to Hillesbø because it was right across the fjord. I saw it on the map when we went there. I was like, this is very close to the mill. Are we going? We were definitely going. So I may have ended up with a lot of yarn. So it's not very aesthetic, but this is how my yarn lives, to keep it safe from all the critters that live in London, because my goodness, there are there many. So keeping it all safe here. There's so much yarn. Some I actually bought when I came to my hometown after. That's the black and white yarn you see here. But most of it, there's more black yarn and red yarn and grey, burgundy. As yeah, I got from the mill. I bought from the mill, and some I'm also getting to make my designs. And just, yeah, there's a lot of Hillesbø. So that all lives in here. Just, I fit this all in my suitcase, guys. This and the alpaca wool blend. Don't ask me how. Like, I had brought clothes with me to Norway to basically stay for 3 seasons, because I swear that's what we had. We had everything from massive heat waves and cold weather, and mostly heat waves, and I didn't really pack much for heat waves, so I just while packing for all that, I also managed to fit in a lot of yarn. So that's gonna be knit up. That'll be fun. I don't think I have to, it's a long episode, this one. I don't think I'll have time to go through all of it, but it's the usual favourites, the lamb's wool blends, all of that stuff. And I've been very good at knitting from stash lately. My stash has definitely shrunk more than it's grown, which is very good, especially considering I'll be sizing down. So I did a de-stash last February. There might be other de-stashes if there's yarn I want to part ways with, but I honestly feel like the stash I have now is very much me and will be knitted up in due time, so you know, it's good for now. This is just living in this bag because I knew that I wanted to show you guys just this dream of yarn, and then I'll manage to squeeze it in all the places I keep my Hillesbø yarn, because that's like a separate compartment in my stash. Most of my stash now is sorted by yarn weights, but in addition to all of that yarn, okay, so those 2 massive sweater quantities that were really just 4 sweater quantities if you're being honest, but like I wanted to make them oversized, so it wasn't. And that bag, I also got a lot of yarn from Untold yarn, Untold wool, Untold. This is a yarn company from my hometown that is started by Marte and Pia. and they are so lovely. They are designers in Norway. They got lots of nice designs that are very like, you know, everyday friendly, very, very popular. And they also have the Yarn brand, and their offices until recently right in the middle of the town square, like as central as you can get, unless you want to be right at the statue, literally. And I got to go there and be a guest on their podcast. So if you know Norwegian, you can definitely check out that episode. I think it's just the second to last episode I've done so far, maybe third, I don't know, I'm not up to speed with things. But that was so much fun. Like, for all the hang-ups I've had about returning to this podcast or whatever, I've just really enjoyed being on other people's stuff, like events or podcasts. Like, seriously, just invite me to your podcast. That'd be way more fun for me. I really, really enjoyed myself. And after that, they gave me yarn. No, not these two. A sweater quantity for each of these two. Yeah. So let's start with this one. This is their Supreme wool. I would argue it's probably a worsted weight, maybe DK. It's got 100 meters per 50 grams, so pretty standard heavy DK worsted, probably worsted. Obviously I had to pick the navy blue. They got lots of really nice colors, but how could I not pick this one? Really, really. The other yarn is this beautiful red wool cotton blend. So I think this one is actually superwash, maybe. Well, it's definitely merino. This is more of a DK to sport weight. I think this would probably be classed as DK in the UK and maybe sport in America. It tends to be like that sometimes. 125 meters per 50 gram ball. So I'm probably going to do this with some kind of summer design. Haven't really decided yet, but this one has already been knit up. And I am not going to spoil what that is because it is a coming design, but again, this is my hint. I just knit a little blue stuff for designs now. So all my designs going to be blue? No? Yes. I guess what I could say about this one, I don't want to show you yet because it's not blocked, it's not looking its best. It's a stockinette jumper. So for those of you who like the pure fuzz, the floof, the sweater hug, I think you're going to love this one. It is bottom up, which I know you guys love all the other ones because they drop down. But this one, it makes sense to be bottom up because of the construction method that I really want people to feel confident about. It's the same method I used for Librarian, Trolltin. It's basically the same construction method that you use if you knit a bottom-up vest, but with sleeves that use shape alongside with the body and all in one piece. And then you just kind of graft on the little stitches you got left up there and 3 needle bind up the shoulders, that's it. It is such a beautiful fit. It's really like one of the best ways to like have good fit across all sizes and all that stuff. And I just really wanted to introduce that in a plain stockinette pattern that isn't, where you can get used to the construction, the method before you have to fit it exactly to your measurements. It's quite a relaxed fit, doesn't have to super fit the shoulders, but it gives you an idea. Yeah, I'm very happy with it. Anyway, I mentioned Yarndale. I went to Yarndale, and I will say I love Yarndale. I love yarn shows in general. For all the anxiety that I've been struggling with this year and just being kind of like afraid of the internet and afraid of the knitting community and afraid of like what people expect from me and me not showing up or whatever it is that I have very much like internalized more than it actually is real. When I go to these shows, it is like, it fills up my cup. It is so, it just gives, yeah, I'm exhausted after, but I feel so good about being in this community and all the lovely people that I get to meet, and just, yeah. And it was really funny when I arrived. I'm gonna tell you guys this story because it's just so, this again, like I have all these hang-ups about like my struggles, my hard times, and I think I've made it up. And then I find myself arriving at this festival in Yorkshire, North Yorkshire. I live in London, so I have to get up at 6 in the morning and get the train all the way up there. And I finally managed to get there, and I'm at the venue, and they're like, oh, no, we don't sell tickets here. You need to have bought already. If you want to buy a ticket here, you have to wait an hour and a half. We don't open for general public who haven't pre-ordered tickets till 12:30, and I am there at 11. I'm just kind of like, why didn't I check this? Why did I not check this? But lucky for me, lovely Lily Kate, who's an amazing designer that if you haven't heard of, I don't know where you've been, probably under the same rock I've been, but at least I know her because she's lovely. We've hung out in London before, and she showed up pretty much soon after and was like, okay, can see if I can reach some of the people that we know on the inside to help us out. And so there was a way around it. I didn't have to stay outside and just cry or whatever. But yeah, so that was really nice. Thank you so much. And I did buy yarn, but it's kind of funny what yarn I ended up with for the majority of the day that I was there. Because Yarndale has nice yarn, okay? Yarndale has like farm yarns. It even has sheeptail that you can cuddle with. It has so much variety, hand-dyed, you know, non-superwash, all of it. Stuff that you can only get there. What did I buy? Well, I had to fatten up my self-striping sock yarn. This is yarn you can get at John Lewis. You can get this anywhere. But it sparkles, guys. Look at the sparkle. The sparkle. It sounds so posh when I say sparkle. I mean, it's self-striping, it's Christmas colorways, it's got glitter. You've seen how much I knit socks now. I can justify this. And they've actually come up with a lot of self-striping sock yarns lately that are colors I don't have yet. So I might get my mitts on those too. But I'll start off with these happy sparkly socks. I don't know what yarn to contrast them with yet. I don't know if I have anything that goes. But yeah, that was kind of funny when everyone like asked me like, so Ellie, what did you buy? And I was like, sock yarn. It's like, who am I all of a sudden? But that's not the only yarn I ended up with. Towards the end of the day, I started like, okay, let's get our mitts on some of the things that I can only get here. And one of those things is Laxtons. You guys know how I feel about Laxtons yarn. It's a beautiful, natural, non-superwash, sheepy yarn that is mostly made for dyers. So you can mostly only get it through wholesale if you're going to dye on the yarn. And they will only sell it to the general public on these events. And for really cheap, I might add. So, I had to get some, and I managed to get a sweater quantity that I already have on purpose. This is their DK weight BFL Gotland blend. So not exactly like the DFL Massham that you may have heard of. This is the Gotland blend, so making a close up through the plastic. Yeah, so you can see it's really lovely. Like, oh my god, yeah, you know? And I already have this, so why did I buy another one? Am I gonna make 2 sweaters? No, I'm gonna make a big sweater. Obviously, have you not paid attention in this episode? Or maybe, I don't know yet, I might make a blanket. I feel like I am entering my blanket era because I've done a lot of sweaters, and bummer, a lot of them no longer fit me, so I should probably make more, and I will. But blankets though, because the way that I'm gravitating towards these like relatively simple knits, that I just need something that is like ready to go now. And a blanket is big, I know that's not going to be ideal, but a lot of times I knit so fast now, or like efficiently or whatever, that I finish a lot of the things that I start for that purpose, just have something simple. So what if I do a blanket, because that's going to take a long time to finish? That's my thinking. Anyway, I don't know, but I had to have it, so whoops. So that was kind of all the yarn I was going to end up with, but obviously I could not really tear myself away from Susan Crawford's booth. Shouldn't surprise anyone. I mean, I've known her for a number of years, even before I was Skeindeer actually met in 2015. Can you imagine that? Like, I think she remembers me, and that was real funny. But we've obviously been working together for a few projects since, and she has since developed or redeveloped and added to and expanded her yarn range, and it's stunning. It's so nice. And one of those yarns, I've talked about it last year as well, but I'm not going to not talk about it, is the yarn I have been looking for since the dawn of Skeindeer Knits, which is a non-superwash sock yarn that has the weight of your usual sock yarn, so kind of like fingering weight, you know, in that ballpark, with nylon. And a lot of the times when I've been looking for that, I've had to trade off some of these things. So like, there have been some people who have done non-superwash nylon sock yarn, but it hasn't been a woolen spun kind of like woolly velcro kind of feel, the rusticness that we talk about. Or it has had that, but it's been a heavier weight than I've been looking for. Or maybe it has had all these other factors, but it's been available in limited quantities, so maybe only if it's dyed by hand dyers, or, you know, I wouldn't know how to get it or recommend it to people globally, etc, etc. Like, this is finally, the yarn exists, finally. And I got a bigger skein as well, but it's not right here right now, so I'm just going to show you the minis. All the colors are like, oh, it is such a good palette. I really like the previous Excelana yarns that Susan used to have as well. Like, they've changed the blend now, they're different colors, but back in the day, 2015 days, That was the first yarn that I used for my design. It was the Serba mittens. I just picked up the Ysolda DK that Latitude had, because I was going to make a design I was going to use for a class I was going to teach there. So that's kind of how we found each other again after all that time. And back then the yarn was a little bit more pastel-y, and I guess I've expressed my feelings about pastel. But now the colour range is so me. So I found my burgundies, I found my mustards, I have also found my like navies, and it's just got all the colours and greys, and it's just so nice. Like, just get a close up. This is sock yarn, guys. Okay, this is a wool nylon blend. It is rustic. This looks like finer of those kinds of yarns, right? So this yarn is called Lock, and it's 75% pure long, 25% nylon. It's got 94 meters per 25 grams gain, which is what this is. So that means it's just under 200 meters for 50 grams, just under 400 meters for 100 grams. Just, it's what I want. So yeah, you best bet that I'm gonna make some sock designs with this yarn, because yeah. So that's that. That's my acquisitions, I think. If I didn't forget anything, I probably did. It's been a long time, but like for like 3/4 of 2023, it's not that bad. I have done worse. You guys remember 2017? 2018? 2019? Yeah, that was a dark chapter, you guys. That I had, I put a lot, maybe that's why I feel terrible now. I just like don't buy enough yarn, and it's like the dopamine is just missing. I joke, don't, retail therapy is not the way. Not for the planet, not for your yarn stash, not for your knitting piece. I'm very happy with the amount of yarn that's going in and out now. It's, I could definitely use up more of what I have and go further back to stuff that I added earlier to my stash, and I am, and I will. I even wound up some of the Lammermuir yarn. They were at Yarndale, and I looked at the yarn and I felt their yarn is so nice. So I've actually wound up some of the yarn I bought from them back in the day from Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and I might do a little Lily Kate jumper, because she was wearing this beautiful bright red jumper that's called Piping Hot, I think, Piping Hot sweater, because it's got these like pipes running through, and that's what that blue is going to be. I cast on 11 stitches and knit 1 row, and then I put it down because I had to go to a friend's wedding party. Yeah, so oh well, I will knit it, but at least I got the little, you know, the little reward from casting on a project, even if it was just 11 stitches and 1 row. Well, I think I've reached the end of what I had to talk about today, and I definitely feel like there's something been lifted off my shoulders, and that's nice. There is perhaps only one thing left to address that I feel and have felt very guilty about, and is the main reason why I initially didn't get around to record, and that is all the knit-alongs that I've been running, because I have for years run knit-alongs, and at the end of every year I do a wrap-up and choose winners and send them prizes in the mail. And I haven't done that for this last year because I am completely burnt out. I mean, I've not used that word so far, but that is what we're talking about. I'm burnt out. I don't have the brain bandwidth to do very, very basic things. Like, I look back at my performance at university back in the day. It was one of the best in my year. All the things I was on top of. And I'm just like, who was she? Because I barely putting 2 and 2 together. And if I managed to do like 3 daily chores all in the same day, I'm calling that a win. So I never got around to wrap up those knit-alongs, and I don't know what to do and what will be fair for you guys who took part in it. And I would really like to hear from you guys. I know I asked earlier like how you felt about, you know, in the future doing maybe not prices or digital prices or things like that, but now I realize it's not even the future, it's about the past and what I promised back when in the beginning of 2022. And it's been so long, and I don't know if it matters anymore, if I'm just causing myself more grief over it in a way that nobody else really thinks about, or if people feel a bit cheated. I don't know. So let me know if you took part and how you feel about it, or would you be happy if I just did a montage of all the photos that, you know, with permission, or because I don't think I even have it in me to get organized enough to hand out prizes at this, even digital ones, and I'm very, very sad about that. And I think maybe I just need to start with a blank slate when it comes to those things. I don't know. I'm tired and I feel guilty a lot and don't want to let people down. I guess I care a lot about fairness and stuff like that, you know, so I'm just talking now. But yeah, I just really like to hear what you think, because I don't want to be that person. So yeah, big burden off my shoulders? Yes, right now. But now I have to deal with like the future me needing to edit this, and hopefully I'll get around to that soon, and then you know, I can actually be back in the swing of things. But I'm not making this episode as like a promise that I'm back now and we're gonna do an episode every month, but I definitely wanted to make sure that we get a couple of more episodes done here in the setting that we've had for the past 4 + 3 is 7 years. You know, I'm gonna have to figure out a whole new setup and everything, and I don't know yet. I may be stuck here for another year if nothing goes through. Like, you never know. So it's just exciting to see what's gonna happen. And I definitely wanted to make sure that you guys get to see the old Skeindeer bedroom studio once more, twice more, 3 times more. I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is that this is not like a promise to carry on recording. I'm just kind of like easing myself back into it. This is definitely like not my best episode or anything. I was just kind of like, okay, now that I've done that, I don't feel like I have to like come back with a big bang. I can just kind of like, I don't know, give myself like a lower bar. Like I keep raising the bar, and like I started off like telling myself, no, we're gonna keep the bar where it needs to be, not where like higher than, you know, like I'm not making sense. I think I'm running out of words because goodness me, I've been talking for an hour and a half. So thank you guys so much for watching. Always appreciate your comments and, you know, all that stuff. I always promise myself I'm gonna like reply to them and everything, but trust me, I do read them all and they are very much appreciated. So thank you, and thank you for everyone who wrote me on Instagram on that post, you know. I will hopefully see you guys soon. So yeah, happy knitting. I don't know, how did I round up these videos? Bye.